Reflections on the Good News of Jesus Christ for the sixth Sunday of Ordinary Time from the Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, I tell you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to your ancestors, You shall not kill, and whoever kills will be liable to judgment. But I say to you, whoever is angry with a brother or sister will be liable to judgment. You have heard that it was said, You shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, everyone who looks at someone with lust has already committed adultery in their heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body thrown into Gehenna. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body go into Gehenna. Again, you have heard that it was said to your ancestors, Do not take a false oath, but make good to the Lord all that you vow. But I say to you, do not swear at all. Let your yes mean yes, and your no mean no. Anything more is from the evil one. The good news of the Lord. There's a lyric from a Christmas song that has been running through my mind frequently of late. It's that time of year when the world falls in love. However true that may be in December, it seems even more true now in mid-February, as an abundance of hearts and flowers reminds us that this weekend we are celebrating Valentine's Day. How interesting that a quite secular holiday honoring a figure about whom there is more legend than fact would bring us to focus on what Jesus called the greatest commandment of all, to love one another. St. Paul agrees. Faith, hope, and love, these endure, he wrote, but the greatest of these is love. 3 centuries later, the great teacher St. Augustine put it this way, love, and then do as you will. But doesn't that sound rather risky, if not downright dangerous? We would much rather just follow the rules, keep the commandments, because frankly, that is a whole lot easier than loving. It's not too hard to know when I have failed to keep some commandment, but when can I ever say that I am as loving as I could possibly be? I can barely get those words out with a straight face. But Augustine knew, as Jesus knew, that the more loving we become, the more we are fulfilling all the commandments, and then some. Okay, but then why do we need all those commandments, such as those Jesus lists in today's gospel? It's because we're not always so good at knowing what love is. We need guidance, directives, to help us know and do what is loving, and not to do what is not loving. This has been the case from the time of Adam and Eve right down to today. You remember their story, which of course is not history and is not to be taken literally. It's a story that, like every good story, teaches many lessons. Recall the original temptation? If you eat the fruit of this tree, you will be like God, knowing what is good and what is evil. That is, knowing what is loving and what is not loving. That temptation enticed them and entices us to usurp God's role and decide for ourselves what is loving and what is not loving. And any of us who have lived more than a few years knows, at least in our hearts, how many bad decisions we have made and how much we have suffered and made others suffer as a result of, as the song goes, doing it my way. An important and, given some of the interpretations of Valentine's Day, perhaps necessary distinction: falling in love is easy and thrilling. We don't choose to fall in love, it just happens to us, an act of the emotions, not of the will. But it's also not the real thing, which is why it is often called infatuation, a word that actually means false fire. Yes, falling in love is fiery and passionate, but it is also false, in that it cannot sustain through time all that real love demands. Staying in love requires constant choosing, an action of the will, whatever one's feelings may be, that what perhaps began by chance and grace becomes over time pattern and commitment. The same is true for the fundamental law of self-giving, which is really a fundamental law of love, the willingness to live one's life serving others. Does this give us another way of understanding what Jesus is teaching his disciples in this passage from the Sermon on the Mount? With each commandment, Jesus is telling us which acts are expressions of genuine love and which are pale imitations, even painful imitations. Jesus takes no pleasure in our pain, quite the opposite. But his message is hard to sell. Just like Adam and Eve, we are so certain that we know better. It can be dangerous, mind-altering to read the Sermon on the Mount. It will shake the ways we think about punishment, penalty, justice, and love itself. Most of all, it thwarts our attempts to compromise our faith or set aside privileged parts of our lives that we shield from the law of God. If your right eye is your trouble, gouge it out and throw it away. If your right hand is your trouble, cut it off and throw it away. Better to lose part of your body than to have it all cast into Gehenna, which is where Jerusalem burned its garbage, and where we got the image of hell as fire and brimstone. What can we make of all this? The Lord's teachings, although not to be taken literally, seem futile. Our meager hearts feel diminished by his standards. Who of us has not broken promises, or harbored resentment, or acted lustfully, or sworn vengeance, or faked our way through the day? In one of his earliest retreat talks, the late Jesuit priest, Anthony de Mello, said as much. We all fall short. We are all called to holiness, and therefore we must not exempt ourselves. And we all must not judge. The Sermon on the Mount is not there to cast us down into helpless and hopeless guilt. No, it is an invitation to that high holiness that we have hitherto not seen or heard about. It is an excavation into our deepest loves, so that seeing what we love most, we will finally be given our heart's desire. But it is a harrowing trip down into the mines of our motivation. And that reveals something else. We may think our faith is just another amen to the wisdom of our age. Well, if we think that, we just don't know what our faith is about. Journeying through the Gospels, as we try to do each week, is no easy trip. It's a dangerous, plummeting, careening journey. Anyone who talks, writes, or preaches about the gospel in a way that leaves us unchallenged or bored just isn't doing the work. Anyone who leaves church without having witnessed the radicalness of the liturgy and the revolutionary import of the gospel was either asleep or listening to a sleep-talking preacher. And anyone who belittles the message of the gospel because it is either too conservative or too liberal isn't paying attention. To borrow a thought from Father Ron Rolheiser, Jesus was neither a liberal nor a conservative. His loyalties were less selective, and his embrace was much wider. Thus, he refused to bring down an ideal just because the majority of people rejected it. At the same time, however, he refused to condemn those who could not live that ideal. For him, genuine compassion lies in doing both, retaining an ideal and walking with those who cannot keep it. Thinking this way got him into a lot of trouble, but nobody could ever accuse Jesus of loving too selectively. This journey that Jesus calls us to, growing as an authentically loving person, is not for the faint of heart, but it is essential if we are to discover who we truly are as God's sons and daughters. What's at stake is dramatically described by the poet Edna St. Vincent Millay in these few lines. Love is not all. It is not meat nor drink. Love will not fill the thickened lung with breath, nor set the fractured bone. Yet many a man is making friends with death, even as we speak, for lack of love alone. As the poet says, love is certainly not all. Love without money, health, or wisdom may lead to crisis. And love without respect, trust, or reciprocation can spell disaster. But surely those who have everything but love lack the one thing that gives meaning to the whole and without which all else fails to satisfy. Love is not everything, but it is the center that holds the rest together. Genuine love, then, is not a synonym for like, nor is it a feeling, like anger or affection or lust, which we share with other animals. Genuine love is an act of the will, a commitment that takes over when the feelings fail, when the beloved is, at least at the moment, no longer even likable. Parents show real love when they discipline their children. The child's face says, "I hate you." And inside, the parent is saying, "Right now, I'm not too keen on you either, but I love you enough to bear your hating me so you won't get into trouble like this again." As a friend once put it, love is the desire and the decision to stay connected to others and to the world around us. Love is the glue of that connection. Something similar happens when we consider love of God. We often confuse love of God with soft emotional feelings, which are translated into sentimental prayers and religious practices. But it doesn't matter whether or not you grow misty-eyed at the thought of your Maker. The goal is to love God, not to feel mushy. The heart, in the ancient world, was the seat of life and also the center of reason, not emotion. To commit your heart to God was to hand over both life and consciousness, to direct every purpose and decision to the glory of God. Heart, soul, mind, and strength, as Jesus identifies them in the greatest commandment, are not four different areas of jurisdiction to be surrendered. Rather, think of them as four nails being driven into one place to fasten down our intentions emphatically. Ultimately, if God is love, as St. John tells us, then love, like God, is a mystery, beyond definition, but recognizable when we glimpse it. So keep your eyes and your heart open today and every day. May you be both the recipient and the reflection of that mystery we call love. Oh, and happy Valentine's Day. Thanks for listening. Please feel free to share this with others if you like, and consider subscribing to this weekly gospel reflection, which you can do at our website, www.justanother.disciple.com. www.justanother.disciple.com. It's free, no obligation, and you're most willing and most welcome to join us. Thanks for listening.